4 years had passed, yet the sound of the divorce papers sliding across the polished mahogany desk still lived inside her chest like a quiet bruise that never fully faded. Some wounds didn't bleed. They just stayed silent, patient, awaiting for moments like this, when the bell above a Café copyright door chimed softly and memory rushed in uninvited. Emily Carter pushed the door open with one hand, the other wrapped protectively around her daughter's small fingers. Cold January air slipped inside behind them, carrying the smell of snow and car exhaust. The Café copyright was warm, humming with low conversation, the clink of porcelain, the hiss of steamed milk. It was the kind of place people came to forget the world for a while. She had no idea he was there. Emily paused just inside, letting her eyes adjust, her instincts scanning for an empty table near the window. Her daughter, Lilia, 4 years old, with chestnut curls and eyes too observant for her Agia, tugged on her sleeve. "Mommy, can I get the hot chocolate with the marshmallows?" Lily asked, voice hopeful. Emily smiled despite the tightness in her chest. "If you promise not to eat all the marshmallows before it cools." Lily grinned, already planning to break that promise. Across the Café copyright, seated in a quiet corner he always chose when he wanted to be invisible, Daniel Carter froze. He had been staring absently at his phone, unread messages stacked like bricks aboard approvals, acquisition updates, charity gala reminders. The billionaire everyone thought was untouchable, unshakable, unbreakable. But the moment he heard Lily's voice, something ancient and raw cracked open inside him. He looked up, and there she was, Emily. 4 years older, 4 years stronger, 4 years farther away and somehow closer than she had ever been. Her hair was pulled back loosely, a few strands escaping near her face. She wore a simple wool coat, worn at the edges, and boots that had seen better winters. No jewelry except a thin silver necklace he recognized instantly. It was the one she used to twist around her finger when she was nervous. And beside her stood a little girl. His little girl. The world narrowed to a single, suffocating point. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. He hadn't seen Lily in person since she was barely walking. Lawyers, court orders, schedules, distance, pride, so many things had stood between them. He had convinced himself it was easier this way, cleaner, less painful. He had been wrong. Emily guided Lily toward the counter, unaware of the gaze burning into her back. She felt only the familiar weight of being a single mother in a world that never quite slowed down enough to help. Life hadn't been kind these past 4 years, but it had taught her something valuable. How to stand even when everything inside wanted to collapse. The barrister smiled. "What can I get for you?" Emily ordered Lily's hot chocolate and a plain coffee for herself. She counted out bills carefully, aware of how little margin she had these days. Teaching full-time, freelancing when she could, stretching every dollar. It was a life built on careful balance. Daniel watched her hands. He remembered those hands once resting on his chest, steadying his breath during panic attacks no one else knew about. He remembered promising her the world. He remembered failing. Emily turned, tray in hand, scanning for a seat. Her eyes passed over Daniel without recognition at first. Time had changed him too. He wore a dark coat, his hair touched with grey at the temples, his posture more guarded than she remembered. Then their eyes met. The moment hit her like a physical blow. Her breath caught. The Café copyright noise faded, replaced by the roaring rush of blood in her ears. For a split second, she considered turning around, pretending she hadn't seen him, protecting Lily from questions she wasn't ready to answer. But Lily saw him too. The little girl stared openly, curiosity lighting her face. "Mommy," she whispered, "that man looks sad." Daniel swallowed hard. Emily forced herself to breathe. 4 years ago, she had loved him enough to leave. Loved him enough to refuse to become collateral damage in his endless pursuit of power and control. Loved herself enough to walk away with dignity, even when it broke her heart. She straightened her spine and led Lily to a small table near the window, her back to Daniel. He sat frozen, fingers clenched around his cup. He had built an empire from nothing. He had negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. Yet the sight of Emily's back, of Lily's curls bobbing as she climbed into her chair, terrified him more than any risk he had ever taken. Minutes passed, maybe more. He lost track of time. Then Lily did something that shattered the fragile distance. She slipped off her chair and walked straight toward him. "Hi," she said, tilting her head. "Do you want to sit with us? Mummy says sharing is nice." Daniel's throat closed. Emily turned sharply. Lily, but it was too late. Daniel stood slowly, his movements careful, like approaching a frightened animal. "Hello," he said gently, kneeling so he was at Lily's eye level. "That's very kind of you." Lily studied him with unnerving seriousness. "You look like you need a friend." Something broke inside him then, not loudly, just a quiet, irreversible fracture. Emily approached, every instinct screaming at her to protect her daughter, to guard the fragile life she had rebuilt. "Daniel," she said softly, the name heavy with history. "I didn't expect to. I know," he said quickly. "I wasn't expecting this either. I'll leave if you want. I don't want to upset her, or you." She searched his face for the arrogance, the cold ambition that had driven them apart. Instead, she saw exhaustion, regret, a humility she hadn't seen before. Lily looked between them. "Do you know each other?" Emily knelt beside her daughter, brushing a curl from her face. "Yes, sweetheart, we do." Daniel's voice shook. "I'm a broken bar. I'm Lily's father." Silence stretched, thick and electric. Lily blinked. "Oh." Emily held her breath. Lily smiled. "Okay. Do you like hot chocolate?" Emily nearly laughed from sheer shock. Daniel exhaled, a sound halfway between a sob and a prayer. "It's my favorite," he said, even though it wasn't. He would have said anything in that moment to keep her smiling. Emily hesitated, then nodded toward the empty chair. "You can sit." For a minute. That minute turned into an hour. They talked carefully at first as safe topics. Lily's preschool, her love of drawing horses, Emily's teaching job. Daniel listened like a man starving, absorbing every detail of his daughter's life with painful intensity. When Lily spilled hot chocolate on the table, Daniel grabbed napkins instantly, his movements clumsy but earnest. Emily watched him, something softening in her chest despite herself. "I've changed," he said quietly when Lily wandered to the pastry case. "I know that doesn't erase anything, but it's true." Emily looked at him then, really looked. "Change isn't proven by words, Daniel. It's proven by who you show up for when it costs you something." He nodded. "I know. That's why I'm here." I stepped away from the board, from the constant travel. I'm funding schools instead of buying companies. I realized too late that I was chasing numbers because I didn't know how to sit with fear. Her eyes burned. "You left us sitting with it." "I know," he whispered. "And I'll carry that forever." Lily returned, holding a cookie triumphantly. "Mommy, Daddy, can I have this?" The word hung between them, fragile and dangerous. Emily swallowed. "Yes, Lily." Daniel smiled at the sound, tears threatening. He didn't reach for Emily's hand. He didn't make promises. He just stayed, present, listening, human. When they finally stood to leave, snow had begun to fall outside, soft and forgiving. Lily hugged him without hesitation. "Bye, Daddy. Don't be sad, okay?" "I'll try," he said, voice thick. "Can I see you again?" Emily met his eyes. 4 years ago, she would have said no out of self-preservation. Now, she saw a different man. Not perfect, not healed, but trying. "Yes," she said quietly. "We can talk." As Emily and Lily stepped back into the cold, Daniel watched them go, his heart lighter and heavier all at once. For the first time since losing everything that mattered, he understood something simple and profound. Kindness wasn't weakness. Love wasn't ownership. Humanity wasn't built in boardrooms or bank accounts. It was built in small Café copyright S, spilled hot chocolate, and the courage to show up again and again long after the damage was done. And sometimes, if you were brave enough to be gentle, life gave you a second chance.